Today on Falling Sun Acres, we're going to be building a display table. We're going to be using 2x4 construction for this, just due to the nature of the project and what it's going to be used for. It's going to be in an ag learning barn, where it's going to be subject to abuse from lots of little children who are going to be coming around and touching and looking and all kinds of stuff. And so there's not going to be any fine wood on this one. It just needs to be all purpose. It also needs to be very sturdy because, kids touch things, they tend to rock things around. And so we need to make sure that this thing's going to stay up and stand up. And so I'm just cutting the pieces out of 2x4 for this. It's going to be about 30 inches tall. This one is going to accommodate 2 egg incubators, and they're about each 8 inches round. I think I end up making this about 18 to 20 inches wide and about 12 inches deep. And again, about 30 inches in height. And so you can see the oak shelf piece that I'm using here. I'm just going to join 2 pieces together side to side so that they fit. And we're going to glue those up and make that the bottom of it's basically a drawer inverted upside down with legs attached to it. Simple project. If you don't account for drying time, it takes about an hour to put together. I would highly recommend it if you need it for displaying something, or if you need a quick table that's going to be sturdy. All right, so here's my first go at using a dado stack. Mr. Donnerworth kind of made fun of me because I made about 32 passes on something to cut a slot into a piece of wood one time. And so, I do have a dado stack. I've never used it. Slightly uncomfortable about it, but the only thing I found was that I think I had the blade set too high to begin with. It seemed like it was a little bit much for my saw to be able to handle all of that at the same time. I am using the Pussycat stick to make this happen and keep my fingers out of the way. It did work just fine. I had to go a little slower than I wanted to. And so I'm going to cut this twice, cut it the first time to make that initial stop point, and then I'm going to move my fence over so that I can make that second cut and then have that about 3/4 material slot right in there and be held firm without really the use of glue or anything else. All right, so we're cutting that second portion of the dado. And again, you can see it works pretty well. Just kind of chews through the material, leaves a nice slot. And then I'm just checking my fit of my 3/4 material to make sure everything's good to go. And it's time for our glue up. We're only going to glue one seam. We're going to glue that seam that's in the center. Everything else is just going to be held together by where it's at. There is a little bit of play in there, but I did that on purpose to allow for expansion and contraction. Everything fit really good. And it wasn't like a first try kind of thing. It did take like, 2 attempts or something. And I'm just going to use the side of my fence here in combination with a speed square just to make sure everything is where it needs to be after I dry up some glue. Taking all these screws that are going into the ends here. I could have hid this with like pocket holes or something like that, but again, it's like a rough-natured piece that's going to get a bunch of abuse, and if anything needs to be changed out or fixed or whatever, I wanted it to be accessible so that it wasn't completely permanent. I've never used one of these countersink combination drill bits before, and I kept seeing people use them. I finally bought one, and I'm going to probably get another one. It's pretty awesome. Saves a lot of time. I don't have to have 3 drills. I only have to have 2. I just use my drill and I use my impact in order to get most jobs done at this point. So if you don't have one of those, I would definitely get one. And now it's time to cut the legs. Again, somewhere between 28.5 inches and 29 inches. The tabletop at the top is like 30 inches. but I got to accommodate for that 3/4 inch piece, and then there's a gap there, so maybe more like 28 inches. But yeah, I'm just using a clamp, hold everything together, putting a couple screws in. That's not going to be the only thing that holds this together, but that's my starter. And then from there, we're going to make some 45-degree angles just as support braces. I did this on you'll see another version of this project that I did earlier. This is actually the third one of these that I made for the fair. But you'll see, how I do that, and you can size this up or size this down to what your needs are, because this angle bracing does such a good job at just removing the slop. And I thought that was very impressively sturdy. Maybe not like front to back sturdy, like if somebody pushed it from the end that I'm at right now at this point, but side to side, super duper sturdy. And the ones that I make that are 2 foot by 2 foot squares, those things, they don't hardly move at all. So if you're looking for something that's really going to hold things together and keep it where it needs to be, I would recommend these types of tables. All right, so here's the part of the project that probably took the longest, which would be the sanding. I bet it took, 20, 25 minutes to sand everything. I started with 120 grit, and then it went 180, and then 220, especially on parts that I thought like the kids were going to probably touch. I spent more attention to those kinds of areas just because I knew that they'd be manipulating it. I don't want them to walk away with a bunch of splinters in their hands. That'd be a bad experience. So like I said, went through a process, got everything where it needed to be. Then I came over with the air hose and then blew all the sawdust off. And at that point, it was time for some spray poly. And so we're just going to use this spray poly that's in the can here, apply about 3 coats of this. We're sanding with very, very fine grit, like 320, and then eventually steel wool, just to knock down the nubs. And then kind of finished product here, although it's still kind of wet in the picture. Here you can see it at the fair with the egg incubators up on top. And then just a couple other variations of it. This is one of the 2x2 tables that I made, holding some of the stuff that Farm Bureau had for the Ag Learning Center. Here's a 4x6 cutout thing that I made as well. And then some of the meat puzzles that I put together for them. Hope you liked the video. Please like and subscribe. Thank you.